Shogun Episode 1 opens with a creaky ship emerging from the fog like a ghost, and one of its passengers is that English sailor John Blackthorne, played by Cosmo Jarvis. They have no food or water left, and one of Blackthorne's fellow sailors is so hopeless that he takes his own life. But Blackthorne is convinced they'll soon reach land and find riches in Japan, the land of feudal lords and samurai warriors. Sure enough, his ship soon crash lands on a rocky shore in Japan, and when soldiers board the vessel, they find all the sailors starved and nearly unconscious. The soldiers imprison Blackthorne and his crew, who worry they'll be hanged, but Blackthorne rallies them with a stirring speech. "This is not where we die." Meanwhile, we meet Lord Toranaga. He's one of 5 leaders in charge since the old ruler passed away, leaving a young heir who can't rule yet. Toranaga talks with the other lords, but they don't trust him. They think he's trying to get more power and accuse him of keeping the heir's mom as a hostage, even though she's just staying at his castle for her baby's birth. They give Toranaga 7 days to give her back, or they'll kick him out of power. One of Toranaga's loyal friends, Tadayoshi, speaks up against the unfair accusations. But when Toranaga tells him to stop, Tadayoshi says sorry and asks if he can do seppuku, a ritual suicide, to protect his family's honor. Toranaga's friend Hiramatsu warns him that if they give back the heir's mother, they'll all be in danger, so Toranaga decides to delay things. He sends Hiramatsu back home to check on the shipwreck. While there, we find out how harsh Tadayoshi's punishment will be. His baby son will be killed, and his wife Lady Fuji threatens to end her own life rather than hand over her child. But a woman named Mariko steps in. She takes a knife from Lady Fuji and helps her see that there's still hope to live for. The local Lord Yabushige tells Blackthorne and his crew to leave the prison cell, but they can't understand each other because they speak different languages. This leads to a fight where they insult each other as savages. However, Blackthorne speaks Portuguese, and since there are Portuguese traders in Japan, they find a Japanese servant to translate. Blackthorne says they're only peaceful traders and asks to be set free, but they refuse. When Blackthorne protests, a guard holds him down while another guard urinates on him. Blackthorne is brought before Yabushige, with a Portuguese priest brought in to translate. However, Blackthorne suspects the priest, and rightfully so, as the priest accuses him of being a murderous pirate. Blackthorne defends himself, and despite the priest's claims, Yabushige decides to spare his life. Sadly, another of Blackthorne's crew is condemned to a horrifying death by boiling. Meanwhile, Japanese attendants groom Blackthorne's unruly hair and beard, while Yabushige indulges in the company of a courtesan, witnessing her intimacy with one of his henchmen. Yabushige orders his men to seize all the weapons and jewels from Blackthorne's ship, convinced they will aid in the inevitable war, seeing Toranaga as a doomed adversary. Hiramatsu arrives and informs Yabushige that everything found on Blackthorne's ship now belongs to Toranaga. When Yabushige protests, claiming it's his territory, Hiramatsu reminds him of his allegiance to their lord. Yabushige yields with a smile, and Hiramatsu announces his intention to escort Blackthorne back to Osaka to meet Toranaga. A Spanish sailor named Rodriguez steps in to translate, informing Blackthorne that he's about to meet a powerful lord. He also reveals that their ship now belongs to Toranaga, urging Blackthorne to accept whatever fate awaits him. However, their journey is interrupted by a violent storm that tosses Rodriguez overboard. Blackthorne bravely helps steer the ship to safety. Upon reaching land, Blackthorne insists on returning to find Rodriguez, declaring, "Where I come from, we don't leave a man behind." Blackthorne, along with Yabushige and his men, climbs up a cliff where they find Rodriguez washed up on the rocks below. Blackthorne proposes scaling down with a rope to rescue him, but they refuse to let him go. Instead, he passes the rope to Yabushige, challenging him to retrieve Rodriguez. Yabushige accepts the challenge, but halfway down, the rope snaps, causing him to crash onto the rocks below, injured and disoriented. Despite his condition, Yabushige manages to save Rodriguez, but then he falls into the water and is dragged under by the tide. Prepared to end his life, Yabushige draws his sword, but a rope suddenly descends, pulling him to safety just in time. Impressed by Yabushige's bravery, Blackthorne bows before him, and they set off for Osaka. There, Toranaga appoints Mariko as Blackthorne's translator. Initially, Blackthorne describes Japan as a savage land, but Rodriguez encourages him to reconsider as they marvel at the grandeur of Osaka's cityscape. Meanwhile, Tadayoshi and his infant son face execution. As Blackthorne stands before Toranaga and Mariko, Rodriguez suggests that perhaps fate has brought him to Japan for a purpose, and he may discover it in due time. Catch all the action and drama of this epic journey and stay tuned for what promises to be an unforgettable series.